Hey, hi.
Oh, hi.
It's Travis.
And Kareem. Or Travis. Kravis.
And Dream.
Kareem.
Oh my God.
Kareem Molina.
Creamalina Travelina. All
Um,
right. So, hi. How you guys doing? We're back with a new episode of One Hit
High points.
High Points. Today's topic is actually something funny. So, Travis and I would say typically we try to just live our lives organically and if something comes to us, we record an episode. And if it doesn't, we don't force it because I don't want to see this as a job. I see this as like fun. It's a fun outlet of expression and just creativity in terms of trying to connect with other people.
Yeah, it's a relation.
I just never tried. I never ever want to record an episode if I feel like it's forced. It's not.
No, we're not puppets.
I'm not talking about something that I don't want to talk about. That's just how I've always been. If it requires a deep conversation, I don't want to talk about it unless I literally want to talk about it in that moment. And at that point, I say, stop. Let's record. It's organic. And that topic today is jobs. Yeah. Why are we talking about jobs?
They're stressful. They're fun. Sometimes they're boring.
I'm
Sometimes.
sorry, but I've never had a job that was fun.
Yeah, right.
That's why I refuse to see this as a job, because whether or not this ever becomes a job, I refuse to ever see it as one.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they're essential to life. That we need them to survive.
By whose means?
I guess the world's.
I mean, obviously, the world collectively gets jobs, but yeah, that just made me feel like a scrub. No, I'm saying, do you ever think about a job? It's it's a concept that is so natural to humanity, but it's also such a unspoken confusion, right? Because people have different levels of jobs that validate their humanity in a sense, right? So it's like, why do the people that have lesser jobs want to even validate the importance of a job if they feel
But where do you
they're only
think?
qualified for that job?
But where do you think the concept of the job came from? It probably started
Currency.
in
The
no.
man-made concept of currency.
I think it's just
how do
more
you
of.
earn currency? How does someone, if we give out
But I
this
think
current,
it goes beyond that. Like it goes back to the point of time where you were good at this and I
Mhm.
was good at this, and the community that individuals lived in, way before like medieval
But you're
times,
talking about the
like.
barter process then.
Yeah,
What you were saying
right. But that's
before.
where it all started, as in people just did things that they were interested in and that they were good at.
But if someone can, I think capitalism, without saying the word back then, has always existed. It's like, how do you value your human life? How do you value your talents and abilities? Right? It's through something that a man has to say, well, this has to value something. My wood chip. When we were kids, we played with wood chips, remember? Every kid played with wood chips.
I did not play with wood
Mulch.
chips.
You played with mulch, wood chips. You took a pile of mulch or wood chips and you said, this is my money, and you'd play like little street games and say, I'll give you this amount of wood chips or mulch for this.
I did that with acorns.
Okay, well, it's something. You found whatever you can use. Because children, it's weird, right? This innate shared consciousness that was always existing amongst people, right? People, cavemen, learned how to build fires, right? They discovered fire, and at some point, humans 50, 100 years later learned just to simultaneously figure out how to make a fire.
Mm-hmm.
It's the more humans develop as a species, we have this innate shared consciousness. We seem to have this sponge like hard drive that stores data and knowledge and experiences that are very tactful to human existence, that we have them passing through over and over again. And I say that because why do children like I immediately learn to know how to use currency and practice with currency and practice currency as a kid playing
well even before the
store
concept
register,
of children and you and I learning the concept of currency. It was more of like, I remember as a child, we traded things. I remember going to school and I come home with, like a new lunchbox, and my mom's like, "Where'd you get that from?" I'm like, "Well, I didn't want mine, so I traded this and this for this." Like we were in the concept of early days of not being satisfied with our own belongings and wanting to something better.
So what does that
So
mean to our species then?
I
Do
don't
do
know.
we feel like we look for inanimate objects to fulfill an emptiness that is that void of development until we find a human being to fulfill that void because they add into our quality of life, fulfilling us finally so that as a child we develop what we actually want
Yeah, I think it's kind of
in
related
a
to
person?
like, our last episode on what we talked about on video games, on how we lived in these fantasy worlds and we were trying to build a bigger community or had the strongest armor. Like we were after things that kind of help in our minds validate ourselves and make ourselves look better
Yeah.
in some aspect. But now we're talking about the physical objects. Last time we were talking more on the virtual side, and like at the early days of our childhood, we learned to essentially barter is on with our friends on, oh, I don't want this ham and cheese sandwich, but can I have your peanut butter sandwich instead? I'll also give you a grape. Like we did that in the lunchroom as kids.
See, I never had that personal experience because I was very shy when it came to my food because I remember like everyone else had Gushers and I was like, well, I don't have Gushers and like I want that
Well, we had
because
Gushers a couple weeks ago, so
no, I know, but shut up. They fucking slap still. Those chemically fucking created,
they're delicious.
like fucking fake fruit rubber. Like,
And it always has a weird little juice in the middle of it, and it's
yeah.
like, no.
Honestly, like talk about drugs, but like Gushers, if like fully accessible to a human at all times, how do you not value them? They're so good.
Imagine if they made edible like Gushers. Like I know, look,
That's
like
dangerous. That's dangerous because
you would eat all of them.
you need a pack. Well, if the pack was like a full dose, like that's one thing. But if you ate a pack and it was like one piece per dose, I would be dead because you can't not, especially if you're high off something else. Like if you're high on like taking a bong rip or smoking a joint or blunt, and then you're like now getting the munchies and you open a fucking pack of like weed Gushers, you're gonna eat those fucking weed Gushers and you're not eating just one. So it's like stupid to dose it improperly, but whatever. Jobs,
Money.
money, weed.
How do they relate?
They all relate. You get a job to make money so you can afford weed to live this life.
And there is the circle of life.
That's the circle of life. That's what we really are living for. Jobs suck. Jobs suck because sometimes people are only driven to work because they know the return is money that leads them to a comfortable life, but they're sacrificing the work life, which is still life, human hours living, to afford a life that is literally only a partial benefit, vacation, relaxation of what other person's dreams are. And I say that because even if you're your own boss in entrepreneurship, you're still buying into a system.
Correct. And like
It's
really,
sick. It never ends.
To break it down simple, it's like we work, we make money, and we work for ourselves or we work for somewhere else. Regardless, we're working.
Yeah.
Okay. And at the end of the day, where does all that money go? We're buying superficial things.
We're buying into a system.
We're buying, correct. We're buying superficial things. We're buying goods. We're buying a house. We're buying vacations.
It's like whether you're an entrepreneur, you're still a slave to a system.
Correct. And at the end of the day, it all goes away.
Yeah.
So regardless, what is the job really doing besides allowing us to essentially live in different capacities?
I believe that like working and having a job, especially if you're unhappy, is basically just doing it. It's basically survival mode into the system. So picture yourself like into the system. You're basically surviving the best way you can to feed into this system that tells you that you're invaluable to society, your human canvas of a life, your spiritual being means nothing based off this man-made concept of work, right? Because humans have, I used to think about humans like we just populate, right? We populate and populate. And I believe that there was like this idea of resources like eating an apple off a tree or if you're into hunting a deer to survive, using whatever resources you can to actually survive. But then it was like when humans overpopulate, I wonder if that idea of a job came from, well, some are going to have to die and some are going to have to survive based off your willingness to survive, your capabilities to survive. And if you don't survive, right, you die. But as we started to populate more and more, we started having the natural empathy that is within us human beings saying, well, this person is not able to work the way I can and survive, which is aka hunting. You're not able to hunt a deer, elephant, I don't know. So therefore, you're now seen as lesser in the village. You don't have that job.
But why did we start comparing that this job is superior or inferior to where I am?
Because the capabilities of someone, human population, right? We see that
But
some people, if villages and tribes started to see us populate, right? And in their minds, they believe that the herd of deer were limited, the herd of elephants, the herd of tigers, whatever it is. I'm saying herd of tigers as if that's a thing. No, there's no herd of tigers. But you know what I'm saying?
A pack of tigers.
Or not even, or just like a colony of ants, whatever. No, there's limited populations of things in the world, right? So if humans now are becoming a dominant species and they're hunting an animal down in their territory, they're starting to see the dwindling of deer. They now have to search farther and wider, right? Mm-hmm. There have to be a true hunter-gatherer.
Well, some of it could be that, at some point, if you're a hunter or a farmer, all of a sudden food becomes abundant within your village. So all of a sudden that job's lesser because abundance goes up. So the demand of the job goes down because the supply's up. So really, I think a lot of it goes back to supply and demand.
But then there you go. The job is easier then, right?
The job is
still
easier.
Living, but you're still making a living, right? Because if a human said, "I'll give you my piece of deer for you to work into my house and make a fire. I'll give you that deer meat if you make me a fire because I'm tired. Whether you know how to make the fire or not, maybe you have the supplies or not. I'm tired to make the fire. I don't have the supplies. Now someone makes you that fire. You give them a slice of deer meat. At the end of the day, there's always a resource that then runs out or becomes limited, and a human then has a selfish nature.
And that cycles over time.
But a human becomes selfish. Think about it right now. Tell me there's not a time in your life that you had to supply something that you own, that you knew you were coming down to, that in somewhere inside of you were becoming like stingy about. You're like, I don't want to waste. I don't want to eat that the best part of the plate.
We essentially start rationing things.
Yeah, I don't eat that best part of the plate.
It's like, well, there's 2 Reese cups here. I'm going to eat one now and save one for 2 hours later. I never wait 2 hours, but in my mind, I always tell myself I'm going to wait 2 hours and eat the other Reese cup. But
do you ever have something on your plate like you eat a plate of food?
Oh yeah, you want to ration it. You want you sit there and say, "Oh, I want this to be my last bite because this is a wonderful bite."
But you get full towards the end, and your favorite thing, you may eat it because you're like, "Fuck, my inner gut that wants that is gonna fucking eat that, devour it." Mm-hmm. But you may never enjoy it the same way you would if you had to put it in your mouth initially. Like we're selfish to ourselves. We're depriving ourselves because inner sabotage, inner selfish nature tells us, save that piece of candy, save that flavor. By the time you get that to that very end, you're wasting your craving for it. Therefore, your limited experience is very much that. And then you're like, well, I don't really want that piece now because I'm full.
Here's a question for you. Is the first bite better than the last bite, or is the last bite better than the first bite?
I'd say the first bite is the best if it's a consistent taste. It's like if it's a consistent flavor or taste, or overall aesthetic of something, right? Like visualize it, like sour shockers or something I always remember loving. I loved every flavor. I loved the orange, the
Warheads.
But no, sour shockers, Warheads, yes. I loved all the flavors, but visually I always liked the green wrapper because I loved green. It's my favorite color, so I'd always save it. So I'd always love green apple for the last. But when I would consume all the other flavors, even though I would save up my green, I would always be sick or full to not eat it. And then I would most likely hand out the rest because I didn't want it anymore.
Yeah, but that's a repetitive little taste, over and over.
But I'm saying a generalization is that even if I'm eating salmon, right? One of my favorite dishes, salmon, steamed broccoli and jasmine rice, right? I'd eat the jasmine rice. I would take chunks of the salmon, pick through it, and I would eat, you know, like mashed potatoes or the broccoli. By the time I would get to the end of the dish, I would always finish my
But
salmon, mind you. But
but are you an individual that finishes one portion, like all the broccoli first, and then move to the rice?
when
Then
it comes to things I love, yeah, like when I would ration out things that you were saying, like when
so
I
for
would
me,
really
I never did
enjoyed
that.
something,
I like kind of go around the plate. I like a little broccoli here, then I want to taste a little salmon, and then a little rice, and then I move around in a circle.
then
You
I'm
know,
then I must be like some type of selfish glutton because
no, I don't think so. Because or you might just have a favorite over the three.
but I do. I always have the favorite. There's the star. There's
So
the
like
prize
it's one thing
piece.
I always remember, like with my dad. It's like he sits there and all of a sudden, like say he doesn't like peas,
Mhm.
he'll sit there and scarf down the peas because he doesn't want to look at them.
Right.
And I just find that like, is that the same mindset?
A sort of, yeah.
Because you're trying to savor something else
I
that
still
you
enjoy,
like.
yes, 100%. I still enjoy what the sides would be, but I always expect the prize piece to be like that center, like entree, right? And if I eat that right away, then it makes me not want to look at the remaining sides and finish it.
It's kind of like a Tootsie Pop.
I
How
went
many
to a
licks to
family
the center
event.
of the Tootsie Pop?
Well, yes, I went to a family event. I mean, I never quite got to the end of the Tootsie Pop because at that point I got sick of the flavor or whatever. I was
Yeah,
tired.
who truly has counted that? Seriously.
I'm sure there's some kids that watched the commercial religiously when it first came out, and that
If
was
anyone
like
knows
an
how many licks
innovative
it takes to
thing.
get to the center of a Tootsie Pop, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, really though. But no, seriously, like I remember just being a kid and always remembering like wanting to just finish the main. I mean, not finish the main course because I was afraid of my parents yelling at me, being like, "Finish the side dishes," and I was like, "No, like I didn't want to." So I was always like, if I eat this, then maybe the centerpiece will make me like still hungry to like finish my meal, and then therefore impressing or you know, relieving everyone who thought I wasn't going to finish my meal. And this sucks because as someone like me who struggled with eating in excess, eating in standard, eating in general, eating in front of people, eating hot food, I used to be stressed out when I knew that my favorite part of the dish was like the piece that if I finished, I'd be okay with, but then the side pieces would be the things that people would like criticize me on, whether it being like, oh, they're family members, cousins, whatever.
Do you find eating as a chore?
Yeah, all the time, because
Are you an individual that, typically would like just give me a pill and let me just eat that way and I don't want to deal with it?
hell yes. One, I hate to know that I'm eating animals because even though I understand that we need to eat animals, that animals eat animals, and like there's this whole, yes, philosophy on whether or not we should eat animals, I believe both sides because it's hard. I want to like stand up for the animals, but then I know other animals gonna eat it, but then it's like we're advanced mentally enough to not kill an animal in a horrible way, but still technically eat it. Like there's so many different routes to justifying eating and not eating an animal. But if I can just not rid myself of that guilt, not even have to look at the visualization of eating raw meat or regular meat or cooked meat or whatever, like it saddens me because it's disgusting. I wish I can take a pill to relieve myself of that when I go hiking, running, not feeling that feeling in my stomach where it's like, fuck, I'm hungry. Waking up in the middle of the night because I'm hungry, not wanting to go to bed because I'm hungry. Things like that. It's an inconvenience. And I feel like my whole life, my relationship with food has always been a chore. It's never been like something that I like wanted to go out with friends and sit down and eat because it's like a luxury. No, it was always like get this out of the way and let's do something physical. Let's do something more wholesome. Sitting down and scarfing down hunting gathering type methods of food like fruits, vegetables, meat. Like it was like you think about it like yeah, we're technologically advanced, but we're like still doing the same thing. We're like hunting gathering to do the basic need
Yeah,
of
different
survival.
concepts. Yeah, we're hunting the grocery stores and
I eat Pop Tarts and I'm like, bro, like the process of making this to shut someone's stomach up. Like we're putting this garbage into our body to basically like these junk foods we're putting into our body to shut us up.
yeah.
But there's like actual methods of eating real food, right? And even now we think about it, it's like with jobs, relating it back to jobs, like basic necessity groceries sometimes are not even affordable with a job. And that is the saddest thing.
Yeah, there's
Like you may not even be able
millions
to
of people in that
survive.
situation.
You may not even be able to survive based off of, you know, this work, this job, this proficiency that we maybe excel in still may not be able to require us a life worth surviving in, or a quality of life, or maybe not even being able to survive point blank. That's a scary logic to me.
Especially on something that's very basic to survival,
I always tried to tell myself, it's like, okay, you make money, you get a job, you make money, you afford survival. But it seems like this logical process, right? But it's not. It's really not. If you think about it, really break it down, your survivability is based off of those around you that are trying to do the same thing. And that's frightening as a
And I think that's
population.
the importance part there, or the important part there is, community, on, surrounding yourself with other individuals, that, you can lean on, or you support each other,
No,
and
you're
that's
because this is the
important.
thing, we're tricked. Because think about it, when humans were less populated, we were having this very much like,
Yeah, but the community mattered, because if you were in a small little village, less population, and you had to rely on someone that did this, like you all
you
had
hunted
your
one buffalo. You hunted one
yeah, but
buffalo, and that couldn't feed the entire village.
each family was not hunting a buffalo.
No, but I'm telling you, a village right now.
Correct,
You only hunted one buffalo. You're only a village of 40 people. You hunted one buffalo. It can only feed technically 22 people. Now you have to ration out.
Okay, from that standpoint, yeah.
It's still happening, Travis. We are still an overpopulated species, and because of that mentality that higher ups, powerful people have, they're willing to expend the lives of people as if they were a colony of ants. And this is why I say that this concept of a job, the concept of currency, despite being very, very like integral to human life, it's also such a Achilles heel of human life, because we are so willing to not only worsen the quality of our lives by hurting someone else in the emotional aspect, but we will do anything to survive. And that's a sad thought, that we would do anything to survive and ruin our emotional quality of life by hurting other people to do better than them in terms of survivability. Where does it end? Like,
well, it's kind of like I've said before, is that I think the downfall of humanity is capitalism.
oh,
Is
100%.
it,
But what is it? But what refinement is there to capitalism? Like, what can we take from capitalism, like elements of it, and then put it towards a new concept that actually works for a mass population of a species, i.e., humans, that are the most quote unquote, intelligent,
evolved.
cerebral, evolved species in the world, or and on Earth, like that we know of.
Yeah, it's how do you sustain, humanity, as well as, how do you sustain the world and animals and everything else around you, and it becomes
Without it being morally wrong, because we're all about morality, right? In the world, we're all about humans being moral with based religions, and companies working on human resources and this. But technically, what do you what do you consider like ethical and moral? Because within a job like environment,
morality and ethics are based off of human definition.
yeah, I know that, but I'm saying, like, you're seeing, and especially now, you're seeing people like wrongfully terminated for a variety of reasons, whether or not the company's able to make money to be able to sustain paying you, versus like company guidelines of even of customers disrespecting you and maybe even physically harming you. There's very limited, reactions that you have in order to maintain a, like rightful and what's that word called? Like,
Well, yeah, I think that's the unfortunate part, is that you have companies with certain individuals that, are become unethical, and, that then ends up impacting a bunch of other people's livelihoods, whether it's indirect or direct. Do they work for them, or, with the product that they're serving? And I think that's the part that's just like, I don't know, frustrating, just because it's like, we're just out there to try to survive, but others are controlling us in different ways. I don't know where I was going with that, but it
I think what you're trying to say is that the value of your life is at the end of the day solely dependent on another human, and that's beautiful in theory, right? It's beautiful in theory because we're all connected. But the moment one decides to use capitalism, the idea of
Yeah, because we
capitalism,
throw people under buses all the time. Like if we all of a sudden become selfish and protect ourselves,
the
whether it's
seed
our
of it,
boss or
the
whatever's
seed
going
of
on.
capitalism is evil, in my opinion. The seed of thinking that I deserve something more than you is evil, but how? How, with limited resources in a given area at one given time, from the initial concept of capitalism, how do you validate it not being evil? And how do you go through with it when you know that some are going to suffer? It is the saddest thing as a human being that loves people, because I have five sisters and brother. I had my mom, obviously, who passed, my dad, my two dogs. I have someone who's had multiple lives around me and learning how to ration and grow up eating shared amounts and learning how to share things in general. That's how I was raised. And in a lot of ways I believe it's natural. If my mother was able to produce that many children, I believe it's a natural thing that it can teach a family how to rationalize and be fair
to
and
sustain themselves.
Yes, yes. But how do you not cry eternally, soulfully, emotionally feeling damaged, almost living this life knowing that there's other people that won't have what you have and vice versa? It's such a sad concept, and it goes into the theme of overpopulation. Like, do we feel as a species we're overpopulated and there's no way of sustaining those that in our species that are going to suffer because we don't know how to control it?
Yeah.
It's scary. It's sad. I cry all the time and get so emotional all the time thinking about how some people, even if I feel have been unfortunate in my life, like financially and all these other ways, like I can't even imagine the way that other people have lived, and it makes me cry. It makes me feel humbled. It makes me feel blessed. And in the spiritual sense, it's beautiful that I have that realization in my humblings. But I don't know that everyone else may feel that same gratitude. I feel like others may really truly suffer.
Well, yeah,
Even
and
I
it's
suffer,
like
but I can learn from my suffering. I don't think that others will do the same.
over time they will. Maybe not as quick or as you
But
know.
suffering, people sometimes die in suffering, and they've
Correct.
never had a good quality of life.
Correct.
Then what? I feel sad, and I feel
100%.
truly heartbroken for those people. Like I do.
You know, because they had lack of better words, a rough time, a rough, place on earth, but hopefully that it's, they can see beyond that and that, they find
Well,
their riches in something else.
it all breaks my heart. At the end of the day, it all breaks my heart. As a species, I think that we have fundamentally created a way of surviving through, skill sets and proficiencies. But
Mhm.
where do we draw the line from excelling in these proficiencies and talents that fulfill our human experience and our capabilities versus doing them solely based upon survivability? And I think that dichotomy is very interesting, because I see people that are very unhappy doing something they're ironically proficient in to survive, versus people that maybe are doing something that they're proficient in that doesn't help them survive as much, but they enjoy doing it, so it continues their longevity and ability to do so. That is so polarizing to me, because it seems like a contradictory of us being alive. Like
Mhm.
it seems like it truly just flips everything upside down, and it makes us feel like, what do we choose? What is the right decision? Like, do something unhappy but survive, or do something that makes you happy but struggle to survive? What
Yeah,
is right and wrong?
and as children, I think from an early age, we're put under that stress immediately on what do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? Like that type of mentality, like it's just driven into our heads,
And
basically, essentially that we're born.
and that's the thing that binds all humans together, is that question, because I don't think anyone has ever figured it out, and I don't think anyone will ever figure it out until either her energy passes on and we figure out where our energy goes, and see where that hard work and value has gone to. And I think that that's the question I think we have for our listeners is, what do you consider the value of human life? Like, what is human currency? Is it the man-made concept of currency that we use to validate our lives, or do you think there's like a spiritual, a moral, um, you know, like
Compass.
logical currency to us? Like, do you think that like true value is experiencing what the human experience is and the true organic process, or do you think that humans are allowed it to mutate or evolve this process of survivability and valuing our lives. Like, I may not articulate myself well, but I'm just trying to say, like, like I have it on there. Like,
No, yeah, I think
what is it? Like, what
you're
is
saying,
it? Why are we
but
alive?
I think the answer is open ended. I think what we value in life changes based on the individual.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when we pass on from this earth,
Think more
you know,
primitive, though. Think more primitive.
the,
Like picture yourself as
primitive,
like
I
a
think, is what it
seed.
is I think it's about community and the relationships. I think that the soul of all of it, like going back to Native Americans, that community and those tribes, they were together just to basically live and provide to the earth and as
Survive.
like survive. And that's, if you go back to the root of all of it, the original man, those type of things, it was all based on love and relations and survivability. There really wasn't money involved in that, even though there was bartering and there was a farmer, there was a doctor, or medicine
Maybe
woman.
we just, all of humans are created through love, because love, or initial love confused of lust, and vice versa, is what created another human. And that's the cycle. And maybe love produces survivability, and maybe lust produces
Because at the end of the day,
suffering.
the jobs that we have
Mhm.
today and the money that we make, regardless of the amount, is providing for something or someone within our lives. So it's still relationship based, that we're providing for, our spouse or our child or our pet or whatever. We're producing money to survive, to support whatever that relationship is, insert blank word, whatever, however you say that. But it's like, that's what we're providing for. We're providing for something that means something and that we love, I think, at the end of the day.
So at the end of the day, we as a species have created concept of currency, of
Love.
value, morality. No, I think love is so innately
No, it's not a
gifted to
currency
us.
of
It's
love.
it's like this thing that we are all blessed with. It's a gift. To love, to feel loved, is a gift. It's a absolute power on this earth. If you lead with love, I'm telling you, if you lead with love, true love, not lust, not selfishness, not desire and self-indulgence, not believing in your own God. If you fully live with love, I truly believe the payoff of making another feel that same feeling is such a gift in itself. It's a reward. It's a reward to feel like that love
I think it's
has.
two parts. One is, like you're saying, the feeling of
Mhm.
love, but I also think, on the opposite, man is satisfied when they give love, and that connection is full circle.
100%.
So
Oh,
that's the
100%. So
opposite.
imagine the gift you're getting. It's a true gift when it's reciprocated. But like, it's, for me, it's a gift to even give it and know that I'm making someone else feel good. But to get it back reciprocated, blessing on earth. That's what they mean when they say love truly is like God's truth. It's God's language. It's love. And on that note, to not get deeper into like this specific topic, because I know we won't stop if I get into this topic, we want to tie it all back into jobs, and hope you guys know and listening that, whether you're working in a job that's making you money that you're unhappy with versus a job that you're, happy with making less money, that there are different validations for why you're doing either or. And you just have to live this life and find that balance and that moderation in whatever decision you make. Because if you go to either extreme, there is going to be a road of suffering somewhere throughout that journey for you. And it will be probably, you will probably go through that suffering no matter what. It'll be less than, as long as you pursue what you ultimately think will make you more happy, and truly happy, not based off what other people think that you need to do, but truly what you feel you need to
And
do.
you have to be true to yourself. You can't lie to yourself either.
Yeah.
Like, that's, a part of the happiness trail.
It's why I never got the corporate positions that just kept going up, that then capped, because then I would support someone else's dream, and I would never progress any further than that, and I was afraid to ever think that I had a capping onto my success based off of someone else's dream and what other rules they've created to cap me. And I say that to give someone who's listening to this the idea that human currency, the concept of currency, the creation of currency, does not value your life. It does not value your choices. It does not value your existence or how you treat others. Based off of just existing as a human, that human experience that everyone technically is able to feel, that, reactionary response of emotion that we are gifted to feel, and ultimately is always going to bind us the exact same way, whether you're successful in currency or not. We're human, and we're always going to feel at some point the same thing you feel. And that is why you should always treat everyone equally. Sorry, but that's
No, it's well
the
said.
best way to put it.
You have to be true to yourself. You have to be happy within yourself. You have to figure that out, whatever defines that.
When you die, and if there's nothing actually after life, guess what? You're dead, and it meant nothing. And if there is life after, and you lived a shitty asshole life, and there's something after, guess what? I don't even say good luck. I would say reap what you sow.
Yeah.
And
So-
on that note,
Love each other.
love each other.
Be happy.
Be happy.
And go out and find some gushers.
Go find some weed gushers.
All right. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.